Welcome to this technical how-to video. My name's Kelly Campbell. I look after Protecht ERM Help, and I'll be walking you through the process of connecting Protecht ERM and Microsoft Teams through the Workato platform, so you can send KRI notifications to users via Microsoft Teams. So here's a quick breakdown of what this video will cover. First, we need to define the API configuration to Workato. Then in Workato, we copy the recipe, and then we connect to Microsoft Teams in the recipe. Next, we set up a secret key to ensure security, and then we get the recipe webhook URL from Workato. Next, create the workflow rules in Protecht ERM, and finally verify a successful integration. Now, before you begin, there are a few key things to note. We're providing this content to help technical users implement integrations using RESTful APIs and an iPaaS platform. You will need administrator level access and skills in Workato, Protecht ERM and Microsoft Azure. In Protecht ERM, the Workflow API feature must be enabled. We'll check for this at the beginning of the next section. You'll also need a user account with permissions for workflow, KRIs and API access. Note also that email addresses of users in Protecht ERM must match the Entra ID principal names. And finally, a note on security. This integration setup pushes data out of Protecht ERM to an external service provider. Workato recipe relies on a webhook URL which is unique to each recipe. Normally, anyone who has the URL can call the recipe, but we've added a secret key check for added security. Now first we need to define the connection to the API. Once you've completed this step, you don't need to repeat it for the next recipe you choose to use. So you can move on to step 2 if you already have an API configuration set up for Workato. Open System Configuration, and then open the Features section. Find the Workflow API configuration setting. If you can't find this setting, the feature may be disabled. Please contact your account manager to enable the feature. Click API Configurations, and then click Create New. Enter the details shown on screen here. These details are also available to copy from Protecht ERM Help. Click Save, and then click OK to close the selector. Now we're going to copy the recipe in Workato. In your Workato account, open the Community Library and search for Protecht. Initially you might see no results, just hit Enter on your keyboard to get the full results. Then select the recipe named Notify MS Teams users when a KRI action is required in Protecht ERM. Click Use this recipe and save it in one of your project's folders. Now we need to establish a connection to MS Teams in the recipe. This step only needs to be completed once in your Workato account. So if you've already done this for another project recipe, you won't need to select the permissions and sign in during this step. In the recipe, click on the first step that shows an error. Under Advanced Settings, click Show. From the API Scope drop-down, select the permissions shown on screen here. Then sign in with your Microsoft Azure Global Administrator account. This account will be used to run the recipe. For trial accounts, you'll also need to skip each of the log message steps. This should resolve the last of the errors showing. Once you've done that, save the recipe and then exit and click Start Recipe. Now we'll set up the secret key. In this video, we'll define one secret key for a project containing multiple Protecht ERM recipes. If you'd prefer to define a key for each recipe individually, see our help. In your Workato account, select Projects. Select the project in which your recipe is saved, and then open the Settings tab. Select Project Properties. If necessary, click Add New Property, and then enter the property name erm.secretkey. For value, provide your randomly generated secret key and click the check mark to save the new property. Now we need the recipe webhook URL to add to our workflow rules. So in the Workato recipe, click on the first step to open the Details panel. In the Workato webhook address section, click Copy. Paste the URL into a text editor and remove the first part of the URL, up to and including webhooks. This is the base URL that you've already provided in the API configuration, so you don't need that part. What's left should look something like the example on screen, which has unique details blurred out. You'll need this remaining section of the URL to create the workflow rules. All the information you need to provide in the workflow rule is available to copy from Protecht ERM help. For each notification type you want to use, follow the steps in the expandable section. In this video, we're going to use the KRI assignment notification. To open the workflow rules screen and click Create New. In the first part of the dialog, enter the name and description. Select Module Key Risk Indicators, then select Enable to activate the workflow rule. You can leave this off until you're ready to start using the rule, but the rule will not run if Enable checkbox is not selected. In the Conditions field, define the expression to trigger the rule. In this example, its KRI entry is created. Then select Action Type API Request. In the Send API Request section of the dialog, select the API configuration you created for Workato. At API Endpoint, enter the remaining part of the webhook URL that you previously copied. Next, add your secret key to the workflow rule. To do this, in the API Request Options section, select the Show Request Header Configuration checkbox and then click Add. Add a request header with the properties shown on screen here. I'm going to select Masked, so the value will be encrypted when saved and stored in the database. The value must match the secret key value entered in Workato. Finally, copy the JSON payload data from the help page and paste it into the editing panel under Edit the API request. Click Save when complete. Now for the last step, let's verify successful integration. So I'm just going to open up the KRI assignment screen and assign a KRI to myself. There's more information about setting up KRIs in our help. Next, we'll manually generate KRI entries just for the purposes of verifying the integration. Normally, KRI entries will generate according to your schedule setup. Open System Configuration and then open Activities. Click Process KRI and Compliance Entries to generate the entry. Once the entry is generated, we should see that there's a notification coming through from Microsoft Teams. And yes, we see there is a notification from Workato's Workbot in Microsoft Teams. So going into my Microsoft Teams account, I can see that there is a new message in my Workbot chat. And the message contains a link button that takes me direct to the entry in Protecht ERM, It will prompt me to log in if necessary and take me straight to the entry. So I can enter this KRI and save it right from my Teams account.